So giving an overview until the slides load, I'll give you an overview about what we are gonna discuss today. Today will be basically we're gonna run through the Django. What is Django framework? Why one should actually use Django being an open source software into production, and what are the amazing things that you can do with Django, and how you can interact with other front end tools like React, Angular, and these all things will be covered in today's session. Okay, so a little bit about me. So I am a backend developer at Continual Engine. Also, I represent Django Software Foundation as a board member. I build communities across India and abroad, helping tech communities to grow. And if you have any questions related to even community building and how you can incorporate certain community aspects in your country or in your locality, you can definitely reach me out here. So moving forward, so what's going to happen today? We will discover Django together, understand the MVT architecture, that is model view template architecture. And meanwhile, when I'm explaining how we are going forward with installation part, everything, I will be also walking you through some examples so that we are not lost. We know that we are learning how to start with it, how to do the installation part. Then will be a short small video which will run you through to the installation part. Then we will come to the architecture. Then again, there will be a small video which will help you to understand the architecture part, and so forth. We will be going in a chunk by chunk structure. So we have both the flavor of the practical part of it and also the theoretical part of it. So both are very important aspects. Okay, moving forward, very excited. Why Django? Everyone first think like there are multiple projects that we would want to work in. Why you should choose Django when there are ample of other frameworks that you can use? For me, the best part about Django, it is free and open source. So it comes with a BDS license, which you can freely use, incorporate in your project, but you cannot alter the code inside it. For that, you have to specifically go ask for permissions in the Django repository and then contribute over there. Then a framework is nothing more than a collection of modules. When we say Django is a framework, we talk about a collection of modules. Suppose, let me give you a brief analogy. So suppose you have a book. So suppose this is a book or I have a notepad. So this is my project. This is my entire project. When I see inside, there are multiple pages inside. So that is modules. So Django comes with a modular architecture. So your big projects can be coupled down into small modules, and then it's very easy for someone or anyone to actually write your code, present it, and also scale. Scalability is a very important aspect when it comes to a production level code. So you can make it very scalable. So right now, when I am working on my projects, I make sure that every module that comes into account in my project, I divide it in different app structures. So in Django, when we call about modules, we say it's app, a project. This is my project, and inside every page is my app. We will be talking more about it in our future slides. And then every paragraph of what you have written in a page comes with a file. So every paragraph is a file. Then going even inside, every line that you write in that paragraph is a code. So this is the analogy. Book is a project. Every page is a module or an app. Going inside every paragraph is a file. There are various files in Django. We'll walk you through. And then every line is your code. So I hope that makes it clear. I'll just quickly jump into the chat for a second if I see anything. Great. I couldn't see anything. Cool. So they are grouped together and allow you to create applications or website from an existing code instead of scratch. So if you see the aspect of modular structure, if you have say 3 modules already present in your project, you don't have to go and again create those 3 modules. You can add on top of it. Even though those 3 modules you would want in your project, you can keep it and add another layer of it. So you can keep on adding layers and layers of project, layers and layers of app. and you don't have to even worry about even scalability or losing it in a way, or you don't even have to worry of the accuracy part of it. You can shunt all those three modules and add layers on top of it. That completely works. You don't have to always start from the scratch. So this is why I personally work with Django in my day-to-day life. And I hope after this presentation, you would also get a gist of it. Moving forward. So you can see these are the top-notch apps that we use in our day-to-day lives, and they are built on Django. So being an open source project, Django just doesn't be in a small side projects. It might not be just in a side projects, but it can be scaled so much higher. So Instagram, Dropbox, Pinterest, Spotify, Bitbucket are just a few examples that I could fit into my slide, but there are ample of it that you can research about and how they are exploring the modular architecture, the power of open source in their projects. And I hope I hope and everyone in the audience could also use the power of the same. So let's dive into action without much delay. So the installation part. So here will be the theoretical part where I'm walking you through the installation aspects of it. Then we will be going through a small video intro where I will actually explaining you the installation part in real time. Okay, so first of all, you have to create a folder with the name of your choice. So if you have little familiarity with the Linux architecture, then you know how to create a folder. But if not, no issues. So to create a folder, we say mkdir, make a directory and the folder name. That can be anything relevant to the project. It should be mostly relevant to the project, but it depends on you as well. What name would you be given? Something which is relatable to the project, something which is smaller, not very big in characters, and something with not many hyphens or underscores. So these can be the 3 points which you can always keep in mind before creating a directory name, because you might be having a lot of directories here. So create a virtual environment, again with the name of your choice. What is virtual environment? When we talk about virtual environment, let's take an analogy of a box. A box where you say you keep all your stationery together. You keep your pins, sticky pads, pens, everything in a small box. So here in virtual environment, we will be keeping all our packages, all our libraries in one place. In the entire computer system, you don't want your packages for your Django project to be get lost here and there. Rather, you would want them to be in a safe space like a box where you can keep all your packages and everything. And whenever you would want to run your project, you just have to open the box and then start working on your code. So to how to open the box, we will be walking you through that code. And then install Django, if not already installed in your system. So you have to specifically install it in your virtual environment, not anywhere else in any other directory or any other path. You have to install it in your virtual environment path. Okay, so here we can use Pipey, which is very convenient to install the Django project, or you could also use the GitHub repo. So where you can see where you can download the zip, execute the files if you are working on Windows, and quickly get started with your project. So there are 2 ways you can use. There are multiple ways you can install. This is one of the easiest way, I would say, where you just say pip install Django. If you don't apply this part equal to the version, that means you will be using the latest Django version. But I insist you to actually find a very stable version. There are a lot of versions which are in the beta state and still require some security fixes or any other fixes. So always make sure that you use a stable version. You can use 2.2.5 or 2.2.10. These are the most stable version yet in the market. Okay. Going forward, I'll just see if I have anything. Thank you. Okay. Now going forward, the installation part. Now we are done with the installation part. Now we will be starting the Django project, building your first Django project. To build anything from scratch, we first have to make sure we have all the necessary ingredients, which we already have now. We have Django installed, we have virtual environment installed. Python is, if not already installed, should be also installed in the same virtual environment part, preferably 3, since 2.7.x is already deprecated. And now we start cooking our Python project. So I love cooking, so I will be more giving you analogies of cooking, books, boxes, and everything, so that we can understand it in a layman term how it's actually working. So now we're going to initiate the Django project. There is a command to do that. Django admin start project, name of your project. So suppose it will be, I want to make something on solar system. So what I'll do, Django admin start project solar system. That's all you have to do. Your project with all the inbuilt files will get created here. Next comes here, it is the book. You have already got your book in place. Now you have to create your modules. That's an app. That's a page of your book. The book is done. Now you have to add pages to it. Create your first app. Python manage.py. Manage.py, the executable file in Django, which takes care of all the admin operations. Django admin is only used during the start of the project, and most of the time you will be using manage.py. Start app and the app name. So I'm gonna name it as planets, because yeah, we are making something called solar system and a planets. My project name is solar system. My first app is planets. This is how my Django project is set. Now I have the book, now I have the page. Now I have to add content to it. And then boom, we are good to go. So this is how I put it off, that there will be a solar system, we love our Mother Earth, and there is a planet in that. That is called app is a planet, Django project is solar system. Let's start. Virtual environment and start. Have to be in your root of your project. Moving forth, you have to go to your directory which you created. I named it as env/webinar. Then I go to bin. Then I do source activate. That makes sure that my environment is activated. That's in the bracket. You can see your environment is activated now. So virtual environment activated. Now I'm going to show you the contents. I've already have few content in my box, which are few of the libraries that you can see. Now I'm moving forward into my app. I have created my app named Solar System. I see there is a planet, which is my app. And what I'm gonna do is run a small command, manage.py run server. And this gets my server up and running. So now if you paste this URL, http://127.0, that's your local host, and your port, you will be able to navigate to your project. So right now I'm hoping that you would having a couple of questions of what is happening here. There's a lot of data to be processed. That's completely fine, because it takes some time to get hold of all the commands, how it's gonna be, what is the flow that we are looking here into. So don't be worried at all here, because if you try hard, if you go back from today's session and try to run all these codes and commands by your own, I'm pretty sure that you will be getting up and running with your first project. So right now you can always make few notes if you're stuck already making something and you're stuck, or you can make notes of the command which you can use. You can also refer to the documentation, and which is pretty vast, I would say. Django documentation, pretty vastly written and up to the point, and there are ample of things that you can learn from there. Any way to zoom? Okay, I'll try zooming it out. I'm sorry if that caused an issue. I will be definitely sharing you the link to the slides, and you could also run the entire presentation on your own. So basically, yes, as Ayushi rightly pointed, I was just running the same commands as taught in the previous slides. That's all what I was doing. If you have faced any issues, we can. I'll share you the an entire presentation, and you can definitely take another look at it. I think that sounds great. Thank you so much for the heads up. Okay, moving forward. Mm, the main part, the Django architecture part, which is very essential if you are someone who want to dive into Django. Without understanding the architecture, it will be very overwhelming for you to go and when you start your project and see there are a lot of files. I would say when first I saw them, I was like, wow, I don't understand any file of it. What every file is doing here? Why I need so many files? Can't it be just one file and I dump every code of mine and everything runs? But no, everything that is there in the Django architecture has a reason of its own. Every file has a complete valid reason why it exists. So I'll just walk you through that. So suppose I am the user in this project, and now I have a view. What are views? Whenever you go, when you were entering the Hopin platform and click that sign in button inside that, you send a request that I want to log in with my login credentials. It was a post request for us. It authenticated you and let you in. And it showed a page. It was the get call where it rendered the entire page. So views are nothing but a combination of request and response, which you write in pure normal Python code, and the return is either a render request or a response or just a HTTP response with a status code. If you weren't able to log in, that I wasn't able to log in like 20 minutes back, it showed a 500 internal server error. That is something that you can even throw from here. So if you just write return HTTP response status code 500 exception occurred, then you will see that there is exception occurred and you won't be able to enter the platform. Now, views, we will be even talking more about it, but just understand user is interacting with views every time. Each and every time you make a call, you click a button, you navigate, you slide to somewhere, you are making a call. You are making a request to someone, hey, I need that data. I want to get into the platform. I want to see what is happening. This button does this, but what happens in the background, view takes care of it. Now coming to forward templates. So now, right now you can see my screen, which is a template where all the data is coming through a link. This link is rendering all my data in this template. So it can be HTML, normal HTML, which I will be also showing you, CSS, or it can be even forms. You see Google Forms, you add your name, you add your email address, and you hit that submit button. So that's a Google Form template rendering. And at the back end, all the data is taken into a model. Model is nothing but a set of files which acts as your database queries. So here we don't write our queries directly. Rather, it's a object relational mapping structure, ORM, popularly known as, and then it goes to the database. Now let's see. We have a Google form. We added all the data. So we are adding all the data. That's a post request here. The template is the Google form itself. Now, all the data that we enter directly goes to the database by the models. My name, my email, everything gets stored into the database. So this is the entire flow. User comes in, makes a request, sees a beautiful template in the form of HTML, CSS, through which we are tempted to add an email address and everything. The data goes and gets stored into the database. Any standard application will have this entire flow Every application which you see will have some entire flow. Maybe databases are not always required. A static website is fine. Then you will be only interacting with views, templates. If there is a database involved, you will be interacting with all of the three. Now we know what is model, what is view, and what is a template. I hope everybody could understand this particular piece because it's very essential. Okay, questions here? Great. So file structure in Django app. Now when you created your file, you will be initialized with init.py, which is normal init.py. I am just gonna walk you through the files which are very essential and important. Then you have your migration files. What is migration file? We'll look into it. Models, test, and views. We saw in a previous slide, views is views.py, model is model.py. This is anything, template slash .html works. And then you see here a little in a dark, not a dark, light blue color, url.py. url.py is nothing but the endpoints of your views. So this is the link of my presentation. So this is a URL that points to my presentation, that points to my views. So here it is a link to the views, link to a method. So everything can work independently. You can call a view through a separate particular endpoint. So none of your views have to be like jumbled up upon. You have every view with a separate URL that makes the process and debugging entirely very, very smooth. If you have say 100 views and everything is linked to a single link, which is theoretically, it also blows up my mind, but it is not even feasible. That if somewhere you are facing some problem, you don't know among those 100 methods which method went wrong. You actually have no clue about it, right? So here, hence we have every view, every method is associated with a separate link. Anything goes wrong, you can track it using that link, go there, and then you can find a small to find the function and debug it as accordingly what went wrong and what happened actually. Okay, so here we're talking about most frequently used files in Django system. There are ample of files, but I'm gonna just narrow it down to a few files, say 3 or 4 files which you will be interacting very frequently and which will help you to understand it better. Views.py. So the file where the magic happens. Without this, none of your request or response will go further. So here I'm just walking you through a small example where I'm just writing a function name called planet name, and it's a request type. And I'm in the return, I'm throwing it as HTTP response, and this is a message loading Earth. As simple as that. A function, normal Python functions start with a method, I would say, not functions. Start with this keyword def, the name of your choice as per your convenience. Request, it's a type of request, and then you return HTTP response. Whenever someone requests you something, you return a response to it. That's all it is. Request something and return a response. I'm returning a response called, hi, I'm loading Earth. Earth is in still downstate mode. It is recovering, and I will be loading Earth in a few seconds, shortly. So this is all you have to do to actually write a view. Here you can do a lot of things. You can take 2 variables, add it, then display the result. You can make a live calculator. You can do ample of things here. Okay. Moving forward, models.py. This is a very crucial part if you are dealing with databases. The standard database that we have in Django by default is SQLite, but you can use anything else as well. Like if you would want to integrate with Postgres, you can use Postgres. If you want to have MongoDB, though it's not officially embedded in the Django architecture, you can use the plugins and still use MongoDB. But here, by default, you will be getting a SQLite database. Now, remember we used to do the queries in our classes where we used to create tables, create database, use database, create table name so and so, table name, column name, varchar of 50, age, integer, default, 0, something like that. As similar to that, we have the object relational mapping where we don't actually write the queries, but this is a standard high level, I would say a cream layer over it, which talks to the SQL queries and helps you create those. So here I'm creating my model. So I'm saying class planet data models.model. You are just getting the models.model from the Django admin config, adding it here. Then as simple as that, name models.char, which is similar to varchar, max length 20. It can be null or blank true. It's on you. I just kept it as null true and blank true. Similarly, description, and similarly the code. Every planet might be having certain codes associated with it in your project, so you can give similar codes. Now when you have this inbuilt, when you have this piece of code in your system done, then what you do, you run two commands. These are the two commands which you run. What it does, the first command creates a similar architecture which is created while you run a query. So it creates a migration file in your system. A migration file keeps track about how your model versioning is done. So suppose today I have only 3 elements here. Next time I add another one. What will it do? It will go create another migration file. For that also, we will be walking you through a small example, but this is what it does. And migrate is creating tables in SQLite. Just one command will help you create a table in your SQLite database. You don't have to manually do it. You just write in your models.py what columns you need, what tables you need. Just run the command python manage.py, make migrations. It will make a migration file for you. That migration file will help you make the tables in your SQLite. Create those tables, not make. Create those tables in your SQLite. So there are 3-step process when you're dealing with a model file. ORM, Object Relational Mapper, helps you transmit data between a relational database and an application model. So application is the solar system that you are creating, and a relation database, that is SQLite here. Then ORM automates this transmission. Hence, we can skip writing long SQL queries. Imagine writing a SQL query which has a foreign key associated with this, then it maps to another foreign key, and then creating all those things manually. It's very cumbersome when you are actually dealing with a higher level project. So we can skip all of it, and we can directly go here and run the object relational model, and that works. A small example so that we are all understanding what is happening here. So in SQL, if you write create table, planet data, name, varchar of 50, in ORM, you do the same thing with a class instance, planet data, and then model.char field, max length 50. This is a small example that will help you understand how you can actually skip SQL and use the amazing power of ORM to create your models. I hope I will just check if there are any questions. Okay, no questions yet. Thank you. Now, migrations, how we can create a migration. I'm sorry, I think this cannot be magnified. If this helps. So I'll walk you through. So what is happening is I'm going to the models, my model file, and I'm gonna add a new field here. called weight. So we already saw we have 3 items, that's name, description, code. I'm going to add another item called weight. That will be also a char field with certain length. So I'll do models dot char field and I'll associate it with a max length. Max length, if you cross that length, it will throw an exception. You cannot cross that particular character length. So I'm just doing a null equal to true. That's it. I escaped through it. I escaped the file actually. And now I do manage.py make migrations. Planet is the name of the app. If you don't add the app name, it will do migrations for the entire project. So it's good if you add the app name. Now you see there is a migration file created. When I go to the migration file, you can see there is a migration file called 0002 planet data underscore weight because we added a new field called weight here. Model name is a table name, which is planet data name and what is being created. Now I'm going to do my favorite, that is migrate them. That will create the tables for me in the database directly. Migrate and see, you have your initial that is there, and then you are applying the sorry, you can skip it to the last. So now I entered my DB shell using manage.py DB shell. That's the only command that you have to use to enter in your SQLite database. And then you did a normal query select star from planets underscore planet data. How the table name here is created is that app name underscore whatever name you gave in your models in small characters. So app name is planets for us, and then the table name that we created was P capital and B capital, but here everything will be small. So you could see that it's select star from planet data, but we don't have any data. So now what we're going to do is add some data to this database. To add the data, you have to go to shell. Previously, to see the data, it's DB shell, but to add the data, you have to go the shell. It's something like you do Python and you get the Python total interactive console. That's similar here for Django. You get the interactive console for Django. So I'm writing the command instance. So since it was a class object, we need to create an instance for it. I created the instance as data, which is equal to planet data, which was a class. Now I'm adding data to it. Data.name, data.description, I'm adding a description to it. Data.code, you add a code. Since it's an integer field, it won't come in quotes. And then data.weight, it's a char field, so it will come again under quotes. It can be a very big number with a metric. It can be a kg or any other metric that is standard. And then we do data.save. Boom, that's all we have to do to add the data into the database. I exited the interactive shell, and now I'm gonna go into my DB shell. Again, I'm gonna run the same command. Select star from planets, that's our app name. Planet data. You can see there are one data that was already added by me, and then there was another data, that is Venus data that we just added. Now you can do a delete because you can see that second data is gibberish. So you can delete using the index value where ID equals to 2. Done. That data is deleted. Now you have ID 1 and 3. ID won't get replaced because you deleted 2, so it will be just 1, 3 with the valid data. So moving forward. So before that, I'll see if I have any questions in hand. Okay. No questions? Cool. Now we come to we were talking about the endpoint. Now we are here to understand the endpoint concept. Endpoints are similar to any URL that you see. Basically, if you go to your Command Shift I and you go to your console and you go to the headers, you click the headers, you filter everything and you just keep XHR, you will get certain links, certain URLs. That is our endpoint. Not exactly that we see at the top. Both can be similar, depends, but exactly this backend endpoint you will be seeing in your console. So now you have urls.py URL patterns, and then you add a simple URL. That is, I'm just adding a small. There are two ways you can do the. Let's understand the first one, where you can use a regex pattern, views.planet name. Views.planet name, very important. Here the planet name is the name of your method. This is name of your method. Next, you again add a regex, and this is name of the another method. So multiple methods, multiple URLs. Another way of doing it is without regex. So you can just give the absolute part to it, say simple and name simple, and then planets, and that's planet template. So actually, this is the most recent one. This is not widely used nowadays, but regex give you a kind of flexibility where you can have where you can add values to your URLs itself. If you just add a slug value, you can add it from here itself. But while the URL pattern path doesn't actually give you a lot of flexibility, but yes, you can definitely use both the approaches as you like. So here we see how you can exactly use this entire whatever we discussed right now. So I see there's a planet name, Hello Earth, in my views.py. Now what I'm going to do is add another request method called name data. And what I'm doing is fetching all the data from my database that I added. For that, you just have to run a query called planetdata.objects.all. If you do something called planetdata.objects.filter, which is similar to select star from planet data where ID equals 2, you can have both the approaches, but here for demo purposes, I'm just getting all the data from database which is present. Now here I'm appending only the name. In my planet HTML, I'm just getting rendered the data, name data. You can see the name data is added and planet HTML is render request. Now I'm just going to refresh it. Whoa, we get the name and data here. So you can just see here the data.name. Data.name is here. Now I'm going to do data.description and I'm going to again refresh it. I'm going to refresh it once more since the request didn't pass, and I see all the description. Now if I just do a code and I go and run my server, I get all the codes here. So see, just by varying one parameter, you can get any kind of data from your database rendered into your template. They are just throwing the data on your template from your database. Great. Now, what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna append a set of more data into this list, which will give you insight that you can do a lot more exciting with it. You can just do a name and you go here and you refresh. Oh God, you get both the name and the code at once. You can see I will just go back a little. You see code and name is here. And you go see you have the code, name. So yeah, that's according to you how you want the template to be there. And you can see there's a simple here. So if I just go do a simple, it will say loading earth. So every endpoint has a method associated with it. I just added just modified it to simple, it gave me a different result. I just modified it to name, it gave me a different result. So this is how you can also explore various possibilities. So that's not all. There are endless possibilities indeed, which you can explore the Django. And if you have any questions, I will be dropping my social media profile. You can definitely DM me if you have any project or if you want any kind of assistance, or where I can fit in and I can help you with some ideas or can help you with structuring your databases or code. I would be very happy to do it. So this is my social media Twitter profile. You can reach me out. You can drop me a DM if you have any questions. I would be happy to answer them. Okay. I can take few questions. So I see a question here. How long would you say it takes to proficient Django, given that you already know Python, of course? And do you have any recommendation regarding which course to take? I would say Django documentation is one of the best was very confused because I was just picking practice. I think it won't take you much time, and you would be up and running if you make one project and from scratch to end. Then I think the entire roadmap is clear for you. You can have multiple projects, and you can even framework. If you if you already have Python proficiency, it won't take you much time. I would say it would be a cakewalk for you actually. So if you just want, I will just share you the Django documentation, though it's already available freely on internet. I would just share it here in case that helps. This is the Django documentation, which you can definitely explore and understand. And here comes the link for my presentation, dropping in the chat box. I hope you would be able to access that link. If anybody can access it and give me a heads up, that would be amazing. Okay, any more questions? I would be happy to take it. Amazing, thank you for confirming. So all the you can go through the presentation and you can understand few tips and bits, and obviously you can contact me on my Twitter handle because I'm most active there. That's my Twitter handle. You can reach me out there, DM me if you have any questions. And I'm also hoping to start a small mentoring program where I can help others like me who are facing any issues in their Django development. And I will be sharing those in my social media profiles. Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful audience. And thank you so much for joining me. Bye-bye.